In a decision that will be studied for decades to come, the United States Supreme Court has sent shockwaves through the legal and political landscape, issuing a ruling that will be analyzed by scholars, politicians, and citizens alike for generations. The court has delivered a historic blow to a cornerstone of former President Donald Trump's economic policy, fundamentally altering the balance of power between the executive branch and the rest of the government. On October 6, 2025, the justices ruled that Trump's sweeping global tariffs, measures that affected billions of dollars in trade, were an unconstitutional overreach of presidential authority, setting a new precedent for how far a president can go in shaping economic policy. This judgment not only dismantles a trade strategy that reshaped international commerce and challenged global alliances, but also signals a dramatic shift in how the United States will engage with its trading partners moving forward. The ruling sends a powerful message about the limits of executive authority, with immediate and far-reaching consequences for businesses, consumers, and governments worldwide. Companies that relied on tariff protections now face new competition, while consumers may see changes in prices and product availability. The tariffs, first introduced in 2018 and dramatically expanded in 2025, were justified under emergency powers meant for national security. However, the court found that this authority was misused, and that such sweeping actions require greater oversight and justification. Now, with the legal foundation for this policy shattered, a new era of uncertainty begins for American trade and global economics. Markets are reacting, experts are debating, and policymakers are scrambling to adapt to the new reality. This is a pivotal moment, redefining the rules that govern America's relationship with the world, and setting the stage for a future where the boundaries of presidential power are more clearly drawn than ever before. The story of the tariffs begins during Donald Trump's first term in office, a period marked by bold and often controversial economic decisions. Trump campaigned on promises to put America first, and trade policy quickly became a central focus of his administration. Starting in 2018, his administration imposed heavy taxes on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of imports, targeting China and sparking a global trade war. These tariffs were designed to pressure China into changing what the administration called unfair trade practices, including intellectual property theft and forced technology transfers. The legal basis was Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, a rarely used law that allows the president to retaliate against countries engaging in unfair trade. This move was unprecedented in its scale and signaled a new era of aggressive U.S. trade enforcement. These tariffs raised costs for American companies and consumers, leading to higher prices on everyday goods. Meanwhile, China and other countries retaliated with their own tariffs, which hit U.S. farmers and exporters especially hard, causing uncertainty and hardship in many rural communities. Despite the turmoil and criticism from economists and business leaders, tariffs remained a signature Trump policy. Supporters saw them as a necessary fight for American sovereignty and a way to protect U.S. jobs from foreign competition. Upon returning to office in 2025, Trump doubled down and expanded the tariffs even further, this time citing national emergency powers under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. This allowed him to bypass Congress and act unilaterally. This aggressive move, bypassing Congress, triggered a wave of lawsuits from importers, business groups, and even some lawmakers who argued that the president had overstepped his constitutional authority and disrupted the balance of power. Lower courts agreed with the challengers, and the legal battle quickly escalated, culminating in a landmark Supreme Court decision that would shape the future of presidential power over trade policy. The Supreme Court's decision sent shockwaves through global financial markets. Stocks in import-heavy industries surged on hopes of lower costs, but uncertainty quickly set in as investors questioned what would follow. The U.S. government now faces the daunting task of potentially refunding tens of billions collected in tariffs, a bureaucratic and fiscal nightmare. Importers welcome relief and possible refunds, while domestic manufacturers brace for renewed foreign competition. Industries like steel and aluminum, once protected, now face a flood of cheaper imports. Supply chains and business strategies built around protectionism are suddenly obsolete. The World Trade Organization, which had seen easing tensions, now faces renewed uncertainty. The abrupt policy shift removes a major source of friction, but leaves the global economy scrambling for stability. The world must now adapt to a new, unpredictable trade landscape. This Supreme Court decision is more than an economic ruling. It's a defining moment for American law and the balance of power. The case tested the limits of presidential authority, with the court ruling that emergency powers cannot justify sweeping long-term economic policies. The justices made clear. Congress, not the president, holds the power to set taxes and tariffs. The decision sets a precedent, warning future presidents against using vague emergencies to bypass the legislative process. Notably, the conservative majority court, including Trump appointees, ruled against him, challenging assumptions of partisan loyalty. Legal experts call this a vital reaffirmation of constitutional checks and balances. The ruling restores Congress's role in trade and taxation, curbing the trend of unilateral executive action. It's a victory for the principle that transformative policies must be debated and decided by elected representatives. The Supreme Court's decision has ignited a fierce and passionate political debate, laying bare the deep and long-standing divisions within the country over trade policy and the extent of presidential power. Across the nation, emotions are running high as Americans grapple with the implications of the ruling, which has sent shockwaves through both political parties and the public at large. Former President Trump quickly condemned the ruling, warning that it would harm American industries and cost countless jobs. He rallied his supporters, calling the decision a betrayal by the judiciary and urging his base to stand firm against what he described as an attack on American workers and manufacturing. Trump's message resonated with many who feel left behind by globalization and fear the loss of economic security. Meanwhile, the Biden administration faces the daunting challenge of managing the political and economic fallout. Officials are now weighing whether to replace the tariffs with new measures or to seek a legislative solution, all while trying to reassure anxious industries and workers that their interests will be protected. Within the Democratic Party, opinions are split. Some lawmakers welcome the decision as a necessary check on executive authority, believing it restores balance to the branches of government. Others, however, worry about the potential negative impact on key industries and labor unions, fearing job losses and economic instability in their districts. Congressional reactions have broken sharply along party lines. Many Republicans decry what they see as weakened trade defenses, arguing that the ruling leaves American businesses vulnerable to unfair foreign competition. In contrast, a number of Democrats and some free market Republicans praise the restoration of congressional authority, seeing it as a victory for constitutional checks and balances. The national debate now centers on a fundamental question. Should America continue to protect its industries with tariffs and trade barriers, or should it embrace free trade and global competition? Business leaders, workers, and policymakers are all weighing in, each with their own vision for the country's economic future. The Supreme Court's decision hasn't ended the argument. It has simply shifted responsibility back to Congress. Now lawmakers must confront the difficult task of forging a new path forward as the fight over America's economic direction continues in the halls of power. Across the country, Americans remain deeply divided on the best path forward, with passionate voices on all sides. The nation's future economic policy and its sense of unity hang in the balance. To understand the tariffs' impact, we must hear both supporters and critics. Supporters saw tariffs as overdue protection for American workers, a defense against unfair foreign practices, and vital for national security. They pointed to gains in industries like steel and aluminum, arguing that higher prices were a small price for economic strength. Critics, however, saw the tariffs as a self-inflicted wound, raising costs for businesses and consumers, triggering retaliatory tariffs, and harming farmers and exporters. They argued the policy created chaos and uncertainty, stifling investment and growth. Many economists favored international cooperation and negotiation over unilateral tariffs. For critics, the Supreme Court's decision is a welcome return to a rules-based, predictable trade system. The debate over how best to protect American interests is far from over. With the Supreme Court's ruling, the future of American trade is wide open. The government must now process billions in potential tariff refunds and help industries adjust to new competition. Trade policy power shifts back to Congress, meaning future tariffs or agreements will require broad legislative consensus. This could bring stability or gridlock in a polarized political climate. The ruling may help repair relationships with allies and strengthen the World Trade Organization's role. America faces a choice: return to free trade, enact targeted protections, or find a hybrid approach. The Supreme Court didn't choose a path. It handed the responsibility to Congress and the White House. The decisions made now will shape the economy for years to come. The Supreme Court's decision to overturn Trump's tariffs is a turning point for America and the world. For consumers, it could mean lower prices. For workers, new uncertainties. For businesses, a new era of adaptation. The ruling reaffirms the separation of powers, limiting presidential authority, and restoring Congress's role in trade. Globally, it signals a shift toward collaboration and rules-based order, easing trade tensions and strengthening alliances. The immediate effects are complex, but the long-term significance is clear. This ruling reshapes American law, politics, and trade. Its consequences will unfold for years, affecting what we buy, how we work, and the very nature of government. Understanding this moment is essential for everyone.